Yes, people, we're back, and yes, I've decided to cut the dodgy hair that I had going on, so I look more like an egg than normal. But we are here today with the man himself, Olly. How are we, pal?
All good, mate. Not too bad myself. How about you?
Good, mate. I've gone through a bit of a crisis, as we can tell. Obviously, Olly plays for Crewe up north, and is absolutely bossing it, and has had a really good career in the EFL. But mate, as I ask everyone the same question, where the hell did it all start?
Uh, well, it was definitely a long time ago. I was born, like we said earlier, near you, down in Basingstoke, and I've got a brother who's sort of 2 years older than me. So I sort of played with him for 4, 5, 6 years old, and then got picked up by Crystal Palace at 8 years old. So 24 years ago, the sort of journey began, and yeah, still going now.
What was that like for you? Obviously, living where you were. How did that work in terms of getting a Palace and stuff like that? Did they have like a centre nearby, or was it all the way to Crystal Palace?
Yeah, so they had a training centre in Bracknell, which is sort of about half an hour from me, and then Palace was sort of about an hour from me. So I'd do one night a week at Bracknell, another night a week at Palace, and then Saturday, Sunday up at Palace, or obviously playing any other team around the sort of south of England. So yeah, I ended up spending 8 years there, and yeah, it was a really good time. Met some great people, and that's where I really sort of learned sort of my major sort of football skills, really, if you like.
Did you kind of know straight from? I think obviously now we see so many kids at such a young age, like 8, getting picked up by clubs, and Christ, there's a football pitch outside where I live, and you hear all the kids and the mums and dads like, "Oh, he plays for so and so." I'm like, "Yeah, but he's 9 years old. It doesn't really matter." Did you?
Yeah.
Did you kind of know when you were that young? You were like, "I'm gonna be a footballer," like, or was it just kind of like, "I'm just going here to play football and that's it"?
Yeah, I think obviously as a young kid, you always dream about being a footballer. I was fortunate that my sort of parents never sort of pushed me into anything. It was sort of very clear that even though I played for Palace at 8, 9, 10, nothing was ever guaranteed. I see a lot of things these days about the actual stats behind players making it, and obviously they are very, very small. And looking back, I just sort of went there and just tried to enjoy the journey, really, and not sort of put too much pressure on myself or have that pressure from my mum or dad.
And was it quite obviously when did you leave Palace again?
16.
And from 16, was it like they told you, "Oh, you're not going to get kind of like a scholarship," or was that just the kind of gradual end? And what's that kind of like, being told, "Oh, you're not getting the next part of the journey"? Kind of.
Yeah, it was strange because obviously I've been there, a very long time, and the under-18s had a new manager who's still there now, actually. And it got to sort of February, March time, and my old man had spoke to different clubs, throughout my time at Palace, and we sort of knew that there'd be different options if Palace didn't give me the scholarship. And we obviously got told, I think it was around about March the 1st, I think that sort of date for some reason just stays with me, and Palace said I can move on. That was a Sunday afternoon, and then on the Monday I was down at Southampton, and then on the Tuesday I was at Fulham, and then I went to Tottenham. So yeah, the next sort of 2 or 3 months after leaving Palace were a sort of very busy time. And obviously when you're 16, you're at that stage of your life is GCSEs and stuff like that. I was very fortunate that my school and my mum and dad let me sort of go up and down the country just to go and see these sort of different football clubs. And in the end I obviously chose to sign for Southampton.
And was that kind of a decision where you thought you can develop there, but also kind of it's not too far from because you're a child still. Do you know what I mean? And at that point, like, who was in the team at that point in Southampton, like, in that age group?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, the sort of location didn't really matter to me. It came down to sort of Southampton or Leicester City. Leicester offered me a better contract. They offered me a guaranteed professional contract, whereas Southampton only offered me a scholarship. But I just felt like when I was at Southampton during that sort of period, it just felt like a great place to be, and a great place to, you know, sort of give them the best opportunity, not only to play with Southampton, but to have a long career in football. And the people my age was obviously the big names were Gareth, Bale, Theo, Walcott, same age as me, year above me, Adam Lallana, David McGoldrick, Nathan Dyer. So yeah, some really big hitters that.
Oh, you can name drop quite well, can't we?
yeah. I've done that quite a few times over the last 10, 15 years. But no, it's great to be around them guys.
At that age, because I think we all do it in determining what situation we're like, me at 16 playing and me at now coaching, I can kind of, or we all look at like, oh, yeah, he's a good player or he can make it. Obviously, like, what a team, that age range in Southampton, well, I think they've produced more talent than most clubs at all. Could you, even at your age, spot like, fuck, like, he's good, he could potentially go on and do big things, or was that just like, they're just all right?
I think even when I was at Palace, sort of 13, 14, 15, everyone knew about Theo Walcott from that sort of age. So Theo, and when our first season as a full-time scholar, we're only 16, and Theo's playing for the first team. Obviously, Theo went to Arsenal at 16 years old, so that was very clear very early that Theo was going to be one of the best. Gareth was probably a bit later on, but as soon as he started full-time football, he just went really quick. And obviously what he's gone on to do is amazing. And yeah, to be fair, we had, like I said, 5 or 6 that were really strong at 16, 17, 18 that never even went on to have a career. So it is really hard to sort of pinpoint, especially until they're sort of fully developed. And
What's it like in terms of, obviously, why do you think Southampton have such good success for bringing in players? And when people think of players, they just think of, like you said, like the Bales, the Walcotts, the Lallanas, like these big names that have played at the highest level. But still, like you look at all these players that are in the EFL, like yourself, come through at Southampton. This player come through at Southampton, plays at this level. Why is that? Like, was the coaching like top draw? Like, you look past your career now, like, was the quality of coaches like great, or was it the scouting? What do you think the success was?
I always find it difficult to sort of pinpoint anything. I think obviously the coaches were really, really good at technical coaching, but I think it's down to the sort of people skills that people had there. It was always drummed into us about our sort of character, our values, our, how to sort of be a good professional. And the sort of pathway was always very, very clear to us, even from 16, 17. That if we did well for the youth team, we'd play for the reserves. If you play for the reserves and did well, you play for the first team. And it was definitely clear for everyone to see that. Obviously, it's different now with the club doing very well in the Premier League. But I think the club still have the same values, and you still see Southampton producing players every year.
And do you think that's kind of, you said about obviously like values and how the club tries to probably kind of mould you into just nice human beings? Do you know what I mean? Like, and I look at, like you said, like that kind of open and honesty, and the amount of people we've had on the podcast and on the channel that are like, as coaches, what's your one advice? Just be honest with players. Players, what's the one advice? Just be honest with, if you don't want to be there, don't want to be there. Do you think that was massive in terms of each player's development? Like, if you are good enough, you'll play. If you're not, you made to work on other things? And was that, do you look back at your career, obviously at the beginning, and think that was such a massive importance?
Yeah, definitely. And not only honestly from the coaches, but honestly from the sort of senior pros. We were very, very fortunate to have some great, sort of early 30s players that have been through a lot, and definitely told us how to be proper pros. And it definitely wasn't nice all the time. There was some hard people there, especially sort of 10, 15 years ago, that sort of you weren't allowed to do anything really. But looking back, it was definitely the best upbringing that any of us boys could have had.
No, 100%. What happened after Southampton? How long were you there for in the end?
So I was there 5 years. Played about 15, 20 games for them, and the club got bought, and it was very clear that the club wanted to get back to the Premier League. And Alan Pardew was the manager, and he was great. So said to me he wants to obviously take the club from League One to the Premier League. Signed Jose Font, who obviously went on to be an absolute legend. And he said the best thing to me was to go out on loan and learn the real side of football. And I ended up going to Grimsby Town, who were bottom of League Two at the time. And it was definitely a sort of
shock.
A nice one. Yeah, definitely a shock.
Culture shock, kind of the difference in the two.
Yeah, there's a couple of podcasts. I think there's Paul Inwood explains that sort of season at Grimsby. There was some real characters there at that time, and me as a sort of 19, 20-year-old, it definitely sat back and listened. But it was definitely great for me, and I learned a lot. And just playing first team football put me in the shop window, and allowed me to have a few offers that summer, and then I moved on to Walsall.
And how important is that? Like, I think a lot of people know how important it is for young players at the time, like regardless where Southampton were in terms of stature in the league, but they're a huge club. Like they've always been a big club. Do you think it's from when you were at that age to now, younger players at bigger clubs, and do you ever look at some of them and think, just go out and play? Like, don't be just like, I don't know, for example, we could use like Chelsea. Like Chelsea's loan system has always been well documented, but a lot of players, I think, who was it? Is it Lucas Piazon? I think Chelsea's longest ever player, 10, 11 years, played one game for the club. Yeah. Like, is that your biggest kind of advice you'd give to any young player if there's an opportunity to go out on loan and you're not getting played? Is it to get that men's football experience?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, when I was young, it was only sort of under 18s, then reserve first team. Now, obviously, there's the 23s. But I think once you get to 20, 21, definitely, if you're not in around the first team, you have to go out and play. Because if you get to 21, 22, 23, and only played sort of 5, 10 first team games, then I think you'll sort of be struggling to get noticed by the sort of next club, next move, because people want players that have experienced real football. And that loan move to Grimsby definitely helped me, and it helped me get them clubs that following summer.
How was it like as such a 19, 20-year-old? Did you move up on your own to Grimsby? Like what was that like for you? Obviously, where I am down south, it's all right, but going all the way up north, what's that like as a youngster? Obviously, to play football.
It was actually very different. Obviously, where I was living in Southampton, there was sort of about 10 of us young lads, all had flats in the city centre, and we were obviously having a good time down there.
Not bad, is it?
It was good. And then, obviously going on loan to Grimsby for a couple of months. Got up there, lived in a hotel. There wasn't much going on in Grimsby. I'll be honest. But no, it was good. And then a good friend of mine, Simon Gillett, was on loan at Doncaster, which is about half an hour from Grimsby. So we ended up sort of doing a bit together, and that was good. Obviously, it was tough on the pitch because And I think when I went there, the team hadn't won in about 16, 17 games. So
Jeez.
yeah, it was definitely struggling, but some real good characters there in terms of lads that know how to have a good time. Unfortunately, it didn't really help us on the pitch that year.
I was going to say, what was it then like going to Walsall? Were they in League Two at the time or League One or?
League One.
League One.
Yeah, League One.
Was that a permanent deal
Yeah,
to
yeah.
them? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So obviously get released from Southampton, and yeah, had a few offers from Northampton. Offered me a 3-year deal, I think I remember, and they were still in League Two, and my agent said, "Yeah, sign it." It's a good club, but obviously my time at Grimsby, I sort of naively thought that every League Two club would be like Grimsby and have similar sort of people there, and not really take it seriously. So I went to go to League One. So I ended up rejecting the 3-year deal at Northampton and signed just a 1-year deal at Walsall on less money. But as a sort of young, naive 21-year-old, I sort of thought I can go there, play well, and then move on again.
Yeah.
But no, it was good at Walsall. I played 60 something games in 2 years. Again, great bunch of lads. Good manager in Dean Smith, who's obviously now at Aston Villa. And yeah, really good time.
You speak of this. I've got it down here. Obviously, that you worked under Dean. Because is he like what we see on the TV? I know it's quite, he probably is, but is he? I've read that in a number of podcasts, and he's very obsessed. Like he's obsessed with just winning and that formula of winning. Was that kind of relayed on the pitch, even at his early stage in his career of managerial?
I wouldn't really. Yeah, I'd just say what you see on Sky Sports or Match of the Day is definitely Dean Smith, the same guy as 10, 12 years ago. He's a top man first and foremost, and someone that gets the players wanting to play for him. Yeah, I'm absolutely delighted to see him doing well at obviously his club, Aston Villa. How
was the training like? Like you said, obviously from League Two, you were like, oh, they're all like Grimsby, or you thought they were. And at League One, obviously Walsall, was it the same, or was it like a big step up, or was it pretty much the same? Or
no, to be fair, it was great at Walsall. It was they had a brand new training ground, and it was almost like a mini Southampton. It sort of felt like I was just making a smooth transition. Obviously, we're in the same league as Southampton, so it didn't really feel like a big move at the time. And yeah, it was just great to get some good games against some big clubs at that time in League One. Obviously, I think there's both the Sheffield teams were in there. Obviously, Southampton were in there, Huddersfield, Leeds. So there was some big clubs in League One, and it was great to get them games.
Is it hard to, as such a young age, obviously, like you're not even 20, not even like 24 yet at that time?
No.
Was it obviously you see players now, like I know at the high level, but even at a lower level, sometimes it's harder to get 4 or 5 year contracts at like a League One club. Were you just thinking, obviously being quite young and naive, like you said, were you like, oh yeah, it'll come after when I'll be in the last year and someone else will give me a deal? Was that kind of hard then when that didn't happen? Like to get, you like, oh, well, why is this not happening?
Yeah, well, I think after about 3 or 4 months at Walsall playing League One, week in, week out, I realised that it's tough, really tough, especially as a 21 centre half. It's not easy. And yeah, then I just sort of realised it is what it is, and I've got to work really, really hard just to get a good career in football. And obviously people from the outside may think League One, League Two, it's not a great career, but it is tough to stay in there and play them games and sort of have 10, 15 years in football. So that was obviously, we all wanted to play in the Premier League and have the big dream and then do that, but sometimes you have to realise that it's not going to happen. But it is what it is.
And what ended up happening then after Walsall? Like, did you want to stay on longer, or was that kind of like your next step?
Yeah, so the next step, I decided to move back home. I thought it would be a good idea to come back home, and I signed for Aldershot Town.
At the time, we're in League Two, weren't they?
Yeah. So they just got into the playoffs in League Two. And I thought if I'm going to go to League Two, I'd rather move back home and play for Aldershot. It just made more sense to me. And yeah, the season didn't obviously go as planned. I had a bad, weird injury. Something was wrong with my sort of pelvic area. Ended up having operations and injections.
Cool.
So missed sort of September all the way to the last game of the season. And the last game of the season was my final game for Aldershot. The club went into administration, and every player got sort of sacked or made redundant, if you like. So I'd gone from, so now I was 24, played one game in about 9 months, and no club. So it was a tough time, I suppose, for a couple of days, couple of weeks, but then I had to get back on it and start speaking to people. And thankfully I had 2 or 3 offers from clubs that had been interested in me the year before, ended up going up to Rochdale.
Of course, like a yo-yo at this point. And was that kind of in that moment of obviously what happened at Aldershot, and like at the time, I remember when they went down, it was like, how did that happen? Like the club went into obviously administration. At that point, obviously, were you thinking, no, right, I need to push on now. Like, I don't want to be in this situation again. And obviously you see it probably a lot more in with teammates and other players. Just tell people, how easy is it for players to just fall out of the game? Like, how many times you'll see players like, he was quality last year, and then you're thinking, where's he at now? And he's not even playing in the leagues.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it happens every year, and especially the last couple of years, and I expect it to happen even more this year with the obviously current situation that every club's in. Looking back throughout my sort of time, there's so many players that I played with and played against have dropped out at sort of some point, whether that's injury or lack of form, or it literally could be anything. At that point when I was 24, I sort of still felt that I was a Football League player, so I didn't want to drop down. Rochdale was an exciting option for me because of what I've heard about Keith Hill, and it ended up to be a really, really good decision going up there.
I was going to say, one of our recent podcasts, we had Stephen Davies on, and obviously he was at Rochdale against Spurs in the FA Cup game, and he speaks about Keith, another manager. I'm pretty sure what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
Is it kind of what sets him? I always look at in the EFL, and I look at him, people like him, Paul Cook, Dean Smith, other managers. Like, I look at them and think, I'm not looking at you thinking tactically. I'm looking at you and thinking man management. How good is Keith at his man management?
I'm obviously a bit biased, but I think he's definitely one of the best out there. Definitely the best that I've worked under. Obviously, it helps that I was captain, and we ended up getting promotion the first year. So obviously, when you look back, obviously I'm going to be biased to that sort of situation. But no, he sort of created a great team spirit. Obviously promotion, and then 2 top 10 finishes in League One for Rochdale. We were definitely punching above our weight. Keith was obviously a big part of that.
I was going to say, and do you look at kind of other teams that come up, and obviously in League 1 and 2, that some teams have a way bigger budget than other clubs? Would you say getting that right sweet spot is with the manager? Like, you could have a bang group of average players in League 2, but if you've got the best manager in terms of man management, makes those players top players?
Yeah, I think so. I think League Two and maybe League One, I don't think the playing budget makes a massive difference, and I think you've seen that in the last few years. There's been some clubs in League Two are throwing big money at it, and they're still in League Two now. I think just the manager, the head coach, creating the right environment is massive. Getting the good characters inside the football club is massive, and then just creating a sort of common goal for everyone to believe in, and then going like we had at Rochdale. We worked day in, day out, and everyone was on the same page. Everyone knew what we wanted to get to, and that's what we did.
And obviously, you spoke about Keith Hill and his man management. I think when we look at managers and captains, they're always very similar in their mannerisms. Like Klopp with Henderson, it's like watching a mini Klopp out there in terms of how he delivers himself. What was that decision, or what was that like for you to be captain under Keith? And is it so important looking at obviously other teams you've been involved with and not being the captain, for example, where you look at the captain, look at the manager, and they're very similar people in terms of their willingness to win and stuff like that, and they're always on the same goal. Was that important for you and Keith to have that relationship?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, I'm definitely not as mad as Keith. Keith's a pretty crazy guy. I was there to sort of, if we brought someone in on loan, or if we brought a new signing, I was there to sort of let them know what we expected day to day, because training was tough at Rochdale, really tough, and sometimes players would come in and go, "Woof, what's this? What are we doing?" And I was sort of that guy to say, "Oh, yeah, it is tough, but we got promoted last year. I mean, we're sixth in League One this year, and it's just trust Keith." So that was sort of my role. It was a role that I enjoyed, and again, we had some great players and some players that went on to do some great things as well.
Was it hard for you then when you left Rochdale, when obviously that time came? What was that like?
Yeah, it was a tough time. Obviously, spent 3 years there, and how it is. I was playing games, and my agent said there could be some interest, sort of Christmas time. Decided to turn down a new deal at Rochdale, and went on to Shrewsbury Town. Looking back, it was a decision that probably didn't work out, but it was definitely a tough decision, because I had a great relationship with Keith, obviously, and everyone at the football club. And after about 2 or 3 days at Shrewsbury, I knew I made a wrong decision, but it is what it is.
Was the decision made, like, in your opinion, a step up in that you were looking to further your career, or because were they in the same league at the time, or? Yeah,
same league. Just before Shrewsbury offered the deal, there was whispers of Millwall and Coventry. So I was thinking, right, this is it now. I can kick on now. I was sort of 27. Obviously, that didn't happen, and then Shrewsbury offered me a decent financial deal, and I was a husband, a dad, it was probably too hard to
do, kind of thing.
Yeah, probably too hard to turn down, and it was. I sort of found it tough to sort of buy into the sort of Shrewsbury way. After coming from Rochdale, it was a completely different environment, completely different, just a completely different feel about it. It was tough to buy into.
Who was the manager at the time at Shrewsbury?
So it was Mickey Mellon.
Yep.
Who's obviously had a great career. All I remember was the first day there, and I'm sort of meeting all the new players, and they're all talking about how the Mickey wants to leave and he wants to get out, and I was thinking, oh no, I've literally just signed. So yeah, no, it was a strange time, but again, some really good people there, some good lads, but it just didn't work out for me personally.
And were you there for a short period of time then?
So I signed a 2-year deal, but after a year, I moved on to Swindon.
And I do want to talk about Swindon, and what was that experience like? Because Swindon has always been kind of some wild times, some normal times, and how was that? Obviously, you're going from Shrewsbury, and kind of are you hoping at this point, like, let's just get back to like that kind of Rochdale mentality. Let's get back to being happy with the team. Like let me enjoy this. And what was that like in signing for Swindon?
Yeah, so that was obviously one of the main reasons. Obviously, Dave Flitcroft signed me, who's best mates with Theo. So it was quite an easy decision at the time. Swindon is a very strange football club. People that played for them in the last 4 or 5 years would understand that the club had just been relegated from League One.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of people that had been involved in that relegation season that still believe that they were the best team in League One. It was a really strange atmosphere. And then obviously Flitcroft brought about, I'm not sure how many players in, maybe 10 or 12 players. So yeah, we had to sort of try and change the environment, change the culture, and yeah, it was definitely tough. And Flitcroft made me captain, and it was tough to have that, to try and change the sort of football club's mentality when we didn't really have the backing from a lot of people at the football club. But the first season, I thought it went okay. Flitcroft ended up leaving. He ended up going to Mansfield with about 10 games to go, and we were still in the playoffs. And then unfortunately, we obviously slipped out the playoffs.
And was that kind of, was you saying about you brought 10 players in, and
yeah, I think it must have been about that. Maybe, I'm not sure.
And then you're obviously captain at this point, and like you said, the environment around the club maybe doesn't think that they should have got relegated. How hard is that as I kind of like the new kid in school, and you've been kind of given, you're the new boy, but also you're going to get given, you're the captain now, and you've got a manager that you believe in, but there's also people there that maybe don't want to kind of pull on the same heartstrings. If that makes sense, they don't want to push in the same direction. How hard's that as a player, but also as a captain, meant to be a leader?
Yeah, no, it's tough, and we had some really good lads there, and some lads that just didn't want to buy into what the manager and the coaching staff were trying to create.
Was he newly appointed as well, or did he get?
Yeah.
Who was there before?
I think it was it Luke Williams, and maybe I think the chairman even took the role. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Jesus. And
yeah, no, it was tough.
What ended up happening then? Obviously, you didn't make it into the playoffs, and
yeah, it's nice. So we had a few injuries when Flitcroft left, and yeah, we slipped out. I think we won 2-10, and just the sort of game before Flitcroft left, I had a really bad, like a weird neck injury. So I missed the rest of the season as well. So yeah, it was tough to sort of watch from the sideline our sort of seasons sort of filter out, and obviously we ended up sort of 10th, 11th. Yeah. Was
it an easy decision for you then to move on from Swindon, or?
Well, so then I had another year.
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed again with Phil Brown, but that sort of summer, I was getting maybe 2 or 3 specialists tell me that maybe it was time to retire because of this injury I had to my neck.
Jeez.
So it was sort of weird, sort of 10, 12 weeks. And then, I ended up sort of just getting back playing and ignoring people's advice, and just ended up playing again. until was it about November time when Phil Brown got sacked, and then Richie Wellens came in, and I never played a game after that.
Was that down to Richie? Like he just didn't, you weren't his cup of tea, or down to the injury, or?
No, it wasn't the injury. I was fit then. And like I said, I played every game with Flitcroft and Phil Brown. And then Richie came in, and yeah, I didn't start a game after that. It is what it is, and I sort of knew Richie before. We live in the same area. Kids go to the same school, so
oh God,
yeah, quite a strange situation. But no, yeah, it is what it is. And then I knew at the end of that season it was time to move on.
And was that when you, from down south, back up north again? Are we back up north now?
Yeah. No, so when I signed for Rochdale when I was 24, Mrs. and the kids moved up, and we've been settled here ever since. So when I signed for Swindon, I was living down there during the week and coming back up on a Saturday, which there's quite a few of us doing that.
Just for people to kind of that are listening or watching, and if you're not in the football world or have a slight inkling of even kind of National League level, just everyone, that is very common. Like, I think when people look at, like, for example, like, I don't know, if you went from Rochdale to Swindon, to Shrewsbury, sorry, people are thinking, God, their family must travel a lot. It is very common, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, you can't just, kids in the middle of school, right, let's go, let's move it. And is that hard for you as not just as a player now, but as an individual? Is that why you see a lot of players when they're coming kind of their late 20s, early 30s, kind of be like, no, I want to stay more kind of set?
Yeah. I think obviously when you're sort of 18 to 25, you see a lot of lads moving all over the place because they haven't really got any strong ties. I think for me anyway, once the kids were born, and the missus obviously working up here, and the kids' schools, I think we sort of made a decision that if I was to move down south, it would be on my own and come back whenever I can. And I'm lucky I've got a good wife that sort of allows that, understands that football's not a very long career, so 1 or 2 years down there, it's definitely not going to be forever. So it isn't ideal, but like I said, there's probably hundreds of players.
Yeah.
Even Championship and Premier League boys. You watch the Man City documentary and seeing Sergio Aguero living on his own. It's crazy.
His kids I think he said, didn't he, in the documentary, that his son, he has a room here, but he's never stayed here for more than like a month.
Yeah.
That's a bit mad. And then you're now back at Crewe now, where you are now.
Yeah.
How's that been? Team's been looking good, as I've seen. I think, because I do pay attention to, obviously, like Leagues 1 and 2, as some people maybe don't. I always look at that Crewe team now, and very similar to kind of what you said about Rochdale. From the outside in, I'm thinking you've got a good like team spirit, if that makes sense, and proper. I always call them. I've said it before. Proper footballers. Like you've got proper players. You know what you have to do, and how's it been kind of bringing everyone all together and doing well now?
No, it's been great. Obviously, I signed there sort of 18 months ago, and the sort of pre-season last season felt very much like the pre-season at Rochdale, and you can almost smell it like in the first sort of month of pre-season that everyone fancies it this year, and obviously last year the lads did great. And I think if the season wasn't finished early, then we would have gone on and won the league. Not only get promotion, but also win the league as well, which was definitely a shame. But this year, the lads have taken to League One really well, and everyone's really enjoying themselves. And hopefully, with sort of 17 games to go, we can get a good run together.
And it's obviously, I say this in the nicest way possible. Obviously, you're not 24 anymore, 22 anymore. What's kind of like the next step for you in after football?
Yeah. So as I said earlier about the senior pros when I was younger. That's sort of my role now. I'm sort of helping these boys. I'm 32 now. Hopefully, can still play for another 2-3 years. I've got my B license. I'm coaching as well. Obviously, pre sort of COVID times, and I'm sort of halfway through a master's in sport and directorship at the minute.
Nice.
So yeah, so looking at different options, and staying in football is definitely something I want to do. It's my main passion. I've got a passion for sort of leading people and helping teams and helping people develop. So yeah, I'm just trying to develop as sort of many skills as possible for myself to try and make my second career after football just as enjoyable as my playing one.
No, mate, amazing. And so what I like to do with everyone is I like to do some quick fire questions at the end.
No worries.
1-2 sentences to answer, nothing more. Think on your feet. You might have to go back a couple of times to think. So, best goal you've ever scored?
Well, I haven't scored many, so this one. I think it would be for Rochdale against Southampton in the FA Cup. I think it was 2015 maybe. Just like a diving header from the outside the box. It's good.
That's not too bad. It's not.
Yeah,
Best goal you've ever seen live on the pitch? So maybe not from yourself, but
yeah, definitely not from me. I remember the first game of the season at Walsall. I think it was Adam Chambers. 2010. I think it was top corner from about 30 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one sticks out in my mind.
Best footballing moment that you've been a part of?
Footballing moment. Obviously, the promotion at Rochdale was great. I was fortunate to play for England at under 19 level. That was obviously a great personal moment. But yeah, the promotion of Rochdale, or back to the youth team days, we won the Premier League. And obviously when you're 16, 17, you think you just won the World Cup. So that was, at that time, unbelievable.
Best play you've ever played with?
If you can count the youth team, it would obviously be Gareth Bale. First team, Adam Lallana. I think he was special, and yeah, special player.
Favourite manager that you've worked with, or one of your favourites, if you've got a couple?
Favourite manager I worked with would definitely be Theo. But again, Dean Smith, obviously to see him managing where he is now, it's very, very nice to see. Biggest
regret in football, if you have one?
I don't really have any regrets. Obviously, I mentioned about the Shrewsbury not really working out, but it was a decision that I made. No one forced me to do anything. It was a decision that I made, and I might not be where I am now because of that. So, yeah, don't really have any regrets.
Funniest person in football?
There's a few of them. I'll go for Lloyd James, who I grew up with at Southampton, and we've had some great time, great holidays and stuff like that. Yeah, Lloyd James.
If you could go back to any moment in your career, what would it be? Like a game or a moment where you go, no, I can do this again.
Probably we played Man United in the FA Cup when I was at Southampton. Obviously sold out St Mary's, and looking back, I wasn't really arsed. I didn't really feel about it. It was crazy, really. But yeah, great Man United team, 2008, 2009 team.
Cool.
Yeah, I definitely would rather do that again now. And I could take it in a bit more.
And last one, mate. What is next for yourself, or in the next kind of 5 years? What's the next on the agenda?
Hopefully keep playing as long as possible, and then have a successful career in football, whether that's as a sporting director or as a coach, head coach. But yeah, no, I've definitely got a lot of passion to be successful in the next role. So we'll see how the next few years pan out and see what happens.
That's it, mate. All my questions done. It's been a pleasure having you on. I think it's been good to get an honest kind of questions from players. A player like yourself, obviously, the things that you've done and things you kind of look back on now. I think it's good for people that are listening or watching to know. But guys, if you did enjoy that, please make sure you like and subscribe. We've got more podcast guests coming ASAP every day at the moment. So keep an eye out, like, subscribe. And yeah, mate, it's been a pleasure.
Nice one, mate.
Cheers, pal.